Jon Jones is definitely going to go down in history as one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. But his career hasn't been perfect. Away from the octagon, his life has been plagued by various controversies that have earned him a huge reputation for being a bad boy within the MMA. This New York-born fighter, who vacated his heavyweight title back in 2020, has faced multiple bans during his checkered career. Most UFC fighters will be banned for certain outside events, such as a fight, or possibly even qualms with money. However, Jon Jones was banned for taking male enhancement pills, as well as various drugs throughout his time as a UFC fighter. Back in 2015, the father of four also dodged a prison sentence due to his involvement in a hit-and-run incident that left a pregnant woman with a broken arm. With that in mind, it's definitely safe to say that Jon Jones hasn't had the best career, even if he is one of the best fighters of all time. He was deemed a disgrace on the spot by UFC President Dana White for many years, and was also stripped of his light heavyweight title. He got into drugs to try to fuel his career, but in the end, he realized that none of it actually worked. He was then found guilty of using performance-enhancing drugs, which left a very bad taste in fans' mouths. In fact, it's actually detracted a lot from his insane accomplishments, as his UFC career has gone down the drain. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense, right? This guy is meant to be the best of the best, one of the biggest fighters in the entire world, and he was using drugs to make it happen. It's super disappointing for anyone who loved Jon Jones during his prime. But did you know he may have also changed the UFC forever going forward? Despite being a two-time champion and being the youngest ever to win a UFC title at the age of 23, there have been many instances that have blighted his achievements and made his career fall into the gutter. It's sad to say, but Jon Jones' career might not have been as good as everyone thought it was. In 2015, the UFC announced that Jon Jones had failed a drug test, as he tested positive for the primary ingredient in cocaine. This was a huge scandal at the time, as Jon Jones was said to be a natural fighter, using nothing to make his power better or to relieve his stress outside of work. These results, surprisingly enough, came in just before he was due to fight Daniel Cormier at UFC 182. This was an insane time to be a UFC fan, as this match was set to be massive. Though he did test positive for this ingredient, he wasn't outright banned at the time because it was not a banned substance. Are you serious? Yeah, this wasn't a banned substance at the time, so the fight actually went ahead. This again caused a lot of controversy at the time, but many thought it was just a fluke. Maybe Jon Jones got a little bit at a party. Also, just around the wrong people just before testing? We don't know what went down, but the fight obviously went ahead. A week later, Jon Jones was tested once again, and the substance was out of his system before he went toe-to-toe with Cormier. People were not happy about this fight, though, and were ashamed to have Jon Jones in the UFC. It was quite disgusting, to be honest, and it changed the UFC going forward, as now it is banned. Still, even after the fight went down, he was fined around $20,000 for violating the UFC's Fighter Code of Conduct. This led him to spend some time in rehab for his sins. You might think he took this as a good chance to get everything out of his system and become a better man. But Jones only managed one day in rehab. I mean, come on, man. Take ownership of your issues and face them. I guess he didn't really care, right? It's quite disgusting. But what he said afterwards made it even worse. He said that he's not a cocaine addict by any means, or even a frequent user. He just made a really dumb decision and got caught with his pants down in the whole situation. Jon Jones said this, but he didn't take much ownership of it as he only spent a day in rehab. It got worse from here, as well as 1 year later in 2016, he was suspended for 1 year after testing positive for 2 banned substances in the UFC. This went ahead of another fight with Cormier at UFC 200. But Jones protested his innocence. It was really sad to see, as everyone knew he was guilty. but he claimed that he didn't know what he had taken was on the anti-doping list. He said he took pills to enhance his love life, and this was most likely why he failed the test. Jones said in an interview at the time that he has been with the UFC for many, many years and has taken these love pills several times throughout his adult life. He started joking at the press conference, but nobody was laughing. He carried on proclaiming that he did nothing wrong. But in 2017, he lost his UFC light heavyweight title after testing positive for a steroid. Finally, he was fully called out. He'd been running for all these years, even though everybody knew he was completely guilty. Everyone's faith in Jon Jones had dwindled, and his career finally came crashing down. He said he had done nothing wrong and was positively devastated by this drug test, which could have ended his career. In the end, Jones was fined around $150,000 and was suspended for 15 months. Jones had to wait another 17 months before he could fight again, leaving his career in complete shambles. It might sound awful to say, but he completely deserved this, as he needed to be thrown to the ground to build himself back up. Jones is a phenomenal fighter, and as we've already said, he's one for the history books. However, the issue was that he had this looming over him for years and kept trying to hide it. He's finally been called out, and his career could get better from here. It's obviously been many years since all that happened, but Jon Jones is seemingly back. It's not all that bad, as he is seemingly misunderstood. He might have had a lot of bad things go down in his career, but he was recently cleared of all tests before his upcoming UFC bout. He's doing much better after years of realizing that he needs to change, and we're really glad for him. Still, it was completely disgusting what he did for many years, trying to hide what was so obvious. But the UFC has taken Jon Jones as an example and has gone even harder on drug use with their fighters. Basically, nothing is allowed anymore, making the sport much better overall. He's a man who's owned up to his mistakes nowadays. But many years ago, he was hiding behind his career when he officially got caught out. Everything changed, and he finally realized what he had been doing was wrong. Jon Jones might have messed up his career back in 2017, but we are sure that he's getting back into action as quickly as possible. But what do you think about Jon Jones' career? Let us know in the comments below, and we hope you enjoy this video.